On this week's Florida Newsmakers, we'll review the 2013 session of the Florida Legislature with our special guests, Mary Ellen Klas, Bureau Chief of the Miami Herald, and Dave Royse, Executive Editor of News Service of Florida. So the 2013 session, 30,000-foot overview, rancor, acrimony, or was it peace in our time?
Well, I think that it was one of the most smoothly run sessions we've ever seen, and the result is that there was a lot less acrimony, but there doesn't mean there wasn't discontent and disagreement. They did it without being, they proved they could disagree without being disagreeable.
And how much of that is attributable to the leaders, the Speaker, Will Weatherford, and the President, Don Gates?
Well, I think a lot of it was, and it's, part of it is attributable to the fact that they had a lot more money than ever before, which manages to smooth over bad feelings. And the other thing was that leadership kind of told people when they had differences, and many of these issues were turf battles between different industries, they kind of said, go into your own corner and work it out. And in the end, that did happen on a lot of big issues.
So among the big issues, Dave, what's 2013 session going to be best remembered for?
Well, I think it depends on whether you're an uninsured person or whether you're a teacher or whether you're the Miami Dolphins. I mean, obviously, the big stories, I think teachers get a pay raise. That's a big deal. State workers around here, that's a big deal. State workers will also get a pay raise. The Miami Dolphins wanted tax money for improvements at Sun Life Stadium. They did not get it. I think in South Florida, that will be remembered. And I think that the really big story from an ongoing standpoint is Medicaid. The legislature failed to pass any plan for extending health care coverage to the uninsured.
Now, Democrats are calling for a special session to reconsider that issue. Is that an idea that's gaining some steam and momentum?
I think so. I don't think it'll be anytime immediately, but I think after a summer of hearing from constituents, hearing from businesses who are going to be saddled with extra costs if they don't do something to pick up the uninsured, I think there's a very good chance they'll be back here in the fall. There's $50 billion from Washington on the table, and I think they're going to hear a lot about it.
Governor Scott surprised many people at sessions beginning by advocating for this expansion and accepting the federal money. That was a mixed result in its reception.
Yes, and I think the sign that he doesn't think he's going to get any opposition from the right was spelled out when he made that call. It certainly is going to help him in many ways get the appeal to the middle, appeal to the independent voters. That issue is one that I think still has a lot of popularity around the state, and we'll see how most people respond over the summer, as Dave said, and whether or not that does enough to help the governor get what he wants.
Was it helpful in the beginning of the session that they got rid of a big thorny issue, the monster of internet cafes, a slam dunk, prohibiting them almost overnight?
I think that was one of those interesting developments where it was one of those black eyes that this legislature had taken so much money from that industry and was going to give the industry a year-long pass to keep doing what it's doing, because it was going to basically just pass a moratorium and then come back in a year and say, now we'll regulate you. They knew that was the game plan, and to avoid the black eye, they basically just dismantled the industry in about 3 days.
Okay. A lot of ballyhoo about elections and ethics reform. How meaningful were the actions taken?
I think the elections bill is a big deal. The Republican Party, Republican legislature in the state for years has been passing laws, the effect of which has made it harder for some people to vote. This year they passed a law that I think goes back the other way, allows county election supervisors to have more days of early voting. It's a reversal, of course, that I think is interesting, and I think it will actually have an effect.
And the ethics provisions, Mary Ellen?
The ethics provisions did make some changes in how they behave. They are not going to be able to come. Legislators can't come back and lobby the executive branch. They can't have dual employment. There's some additional restrictions, giving more teeth to the Ethics Commission. Those are changes that have been long in the making, and they actually passed them this year.
All right, session's over. We're about to head into the doldrums of a hot summer in Tallahassee, and everybody can smell an election a little more than a year and a half away. Governor Rick Scott help his reelection chances in this session?
I think he helped. I think that he eliminated some of the opposition against him. He's trying to inoculate the teachers who would campaign against him. And And I think that he's worked toward the middle, and I think that is going to help him.
Extremely unlikely a Republican's going to get in against this incumbent governor then.
I think so, although his approval ratings remain really surprisingly low, considering that he ran on basically one thing, bringing jobs back to the state of Florida, and unemployment has dropped fairly dramatically.
I would say Governor Lawton Chiles 20 years ago had similar numbers before he won re-election. Any final view? How would you wrap this up as a bumper sticker, the 2013 session, Dave?
Better for voters, better for teachers, better for state workers, not so much better for the uninsured.
And Mary Ellen?
I would say it was a session in which they cleaned up a lot of their bad press. You know, it was a clean sweep session.
Policy reform. Mary Ellen Klas of the Miami Herald, Dave Royse, News Service of Florida, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week on NewsMakers.